I am Rafat Ali, and you're listening to Sweet Success.
You've just checked in to Sweet Success. Join me, Katie Cline, for exclusive conversations with hotel executives, hospitality leaders, and industry innovators. Together, we'll uncover the strategies and techniques these masters of hospitality relentlessly refine. Whether you're already in the industry or just starting out, tune in every week to unlock the secret to your sweet success. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sweet Success. I'm your host, Katie Cline, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Rafat Ali. Rafat is the CEO and founder of Skift, the largest business intelligence and marketing platform in travel, providing news, information, data, and services to all sectors of the world's largest industry. As of last summer, Skift's also the home of this podcast. Before launching the company, Rafat founded Paid Content and Content Next, which he later sold to The Guardian. And prior to that, he was managing editor of the Silicon Alley Reporter. He's a journalist, an entrepreneur, a builder, and truly one of the most important voices in global travel today. Rafat, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the generous intro.
Oh my gosh, it's easy to give you a generous intro. I really have to tell you, it's a little surreal for me to get to chat with you today because I started my career in the fashion industry. And after many years there, I had this aha moment that I wanted to move into travel. And I became a voracious reader of Skift, something that is obviously still true to this day. Flash forward to last summer when Sweet Success became part of the Skift family and now a sitting down. So just thank you for taking the time.
Of course, yeah. No, it just so happens that we are in the same neighborhood, so we can share neighborhood stories.
Exactly. We should have done this at a coffee shop.
I know these days better known as Zoran's neighborhood as well.
That's right. That's right. So let's go back to when you had the first idea for what would become Skift.
So I've spent my life at the intersection of sort of media and tech. That was my journalism career, where I was writing about internet during the 1.0 era, during the 2.0 era as well. And what started as a blog turned into a media company. That was my first. The blog was Paid Content, and the media company was the sort of the parent company, Content Next, which was just the parent company name, and had a few different blogs underneath it, had conferences, had research, etc., covering the business of digital media. So that's my first company that I built and sold, as you said, to the Guardian Group in 2008. 2010, I left after 2 years and then traveled for 2 years. Different parts of the world. Started with Iceland a week after the volcanoes, the infamous volcano stopped, is when I went there. Not because of that, it was a trip booked before. And just so happened that the volcano happened and my trip went on schedule, as in like the volcano actually did stop before my trips. So that worked out. And then went on to, I think, 12 different countries and travel for 2 years. Not continuously going back and forth from New York. I was in New York by then, was in LA before that, and was also partly living in London in those 2 years because it's just easier to travel the world from London. And then the idea of Skift didn't necessarily come out of my travels, but as I was thinking about my next venture, how widely I travel definitely affected how I thought about Skift, of sort of a wide angle lens on the business of travel, focused on where the future of travel is going, particularly sort of traveler habits and how that affects the industry versus just covering the industry. And traveler habits in a larger sense, whether it's tech, whether it's geopolitics and all, anything, consumer tech, consumer design, everything that affects travel. And as you know, having been in the travel industry now, like everything affects travel. Travel is sort of a crucible where a lot of early signals happen in the world. And so we brought that sensibility to covering the business of travel in sort of a design forward. And I don't mean just design in terms of actual physical design, but I mean in terms of like how we think about the future of travel, experience design, traveler behavior, etc. So we brought all that to the business of travel with the original pitch that we wanted to become the Bloomberg of travel. There wasn't a sort of cutting across different parts of the travel industry brand that would speak about the overall business of travel versus just airlines, just hotels, just cruises, different parts of the industry where a bunch of trades existed forever in a digital, tech forward, design forward way. So that was the original premise, and that's essentially a version of that has been playing out for now 13 years now.
Wow. And when you were talking about paid content, I hear a lot of parallels with that. Like you said, the business of digital media was what you were focused on there. You did conferences, you did research, you obviously had the blog that became the site. So was it almost like you saw how successful that was, that you were looking for the next industry to build it again? Or was it just that confluence of factors of traveling and seeing the need for it as well that just made sense?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, none of these are neat stories. We sort of, in hindsight, construct neat stories on how this started. But it was certainly what I learned at paid content. Some of it I wanted to unlearn, and some of it I wanted to learn again, I guess, is the phrase. Technology and ease of doing publishing, if you will, has changed a lot since I first started. I mean, blogs brought along ease of use in one way. And then obviously it's become a lot simpler now where, everything you need to start a media information company exists for free or almost free. And obviously then it's up to you to build your quality, brand, focus, whatever else business. And so took lessons from there. Didn't want to be known as a blog because that was restrictive and underplaying what the ambition was. It's built on WordPress, like every second site on the web probably is built on WordPress these days, or at least publishing site that's doing any sort of content. But with the deliberate focus on paid content was an accidental company, wasn't even like the name was terrible. It somehow ended up capturing a moment, and Skift was a deliberate name, deliberate launch. We raised some initial money from it. So it was a more thought through. Obviously, first was an accidental company that I stumbled into. The second was a more thought out process.
And talk a bit about the Skift name and how that came to be.
Yeah. So when I sold my first company, I was trying to buy domain names for no reason, because that's what you do, I guess. And I was trying to buy shift.com from a third party. And it was too expensive. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then looked at variations of Shift. And I don't even know how I thought of variations of Shift. And then Skift was available. Like it was just available for $10 it was at that point. This is, I'm going to say, probably 2010 or something, or 2009 maybe. And so bought it with no sense of what I would do with it. And when I came up with the idea of Skift initially, it was going to be Travel IQ. That was the original thought behind it. Jason, my co-founder, Jason Clampett, who you know, said it's a terrible name, and he was correct on it. And because like when you write it out, it's L and I on a keyboard, it's hard to distinguish. So it looked like Travel Leak or something. And also like every second startup in travel was Trip this or Travel that back in the day. This changed a little bit now. So one of my investors, as in somebody who became my investor, angel investor, said, you have this domain name Skift, why don't you just run with it? And so, sure, it's a 5-letter word, sounds familiar if you hear it for the first time. And so that's why we went with it. And one of the decisions we did early was to focus on design, like make sure that it has a good sense of design on the website back in the days, and then our conferences later. And yet we chose yellow as the color, as the predominant color, sort of bright yellow, which now people associate us with. And you've been to our global forum and it's all over the place, and I'm wearing yellow shoes. Like it's a whole thing. And so all of those things were deliberate, but I don't know if it was like a grand plan, but it was deliberately thought through over a period of time.
Right.
Which lend itself to the brand. Obviously, we had to underpin it with great editorial over a period of time, which we did.
Yeah. the intention was there to focus on brand, to focus on branding. But like you said, you didn't necessarily know that flash forward, you'd be wearing yellow sneakers to really pull that through, or how kind of iconic it has become within the travel industry and recognized.
Yeah. So much so that people come to our conferences wearing yellow themselves to be part of the experience. Speakers do, attendees do. We have a Skift fashion feed from the Global Forum, particularly because it's just the largest one that we do here in New York. You were there this year.
It was amazing.
We started, I think, by wearing yellow socks or maybe yellow pen or something. And then it morphed into me wearing yellow shoes. And then I think the rest of the team wear yellow socks. Some of them wear yellow shoes and sandals as well now, etc.
Yeah, amazing. You had mentioned Jason, your co-founder. How did you guys meet? And now that you've worked together for so long, what do you think is the secret to finding the right co-founder for somebody?
Jason was introduced to me through somebody that we knew. The funny story is that I was going to partner with this other guy, and he was going to be the business guy. I was going to be the editorial because my background is a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And then he chickened out at the last minute and said, "No, I can't do it. I'm family," like, because he was working at some large company and he knew travel quite well. And so he said, "Well, I can't join you, but I'm going to introduce you to this guy." So introduced me to Jason, who he knew. And then the script flipped in the sense that I was the business guy and Jason was the editor-in-chief for many years until his current role was the chief product officer with the company. And so that's how we met. We met and we hit it off pretty well. The co-founder thing is interesting, at least what I've learned. Generally speaking, it is one person's vision in most cases. I'm sure there are exceptions that people can bring up. And then the co-founders or co-founder of founders, because some companies have multiple co-founders, are there to execute that vision. And the more clarity there is of that role, yes, you're equal partners, but also the vision is of one person that is enhanced by the other person in many different ways. It's also gut checked by the other person in many different ways over years. And that's generally, but it's a clear delineation of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It was also clear because in our case, Jason was focused on editorial, I was focused on business. So I was initially the external guy trying to raise money and trying to hire people after. And Jason was internally focused, meaning stories get done, newsletter goes out, etc. He also, was essentially any time and even now, 13 years later, anything gets, like the example that I give, if a key gets lost, he knows where to find it type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's an all-rounder in that sense. Like he's the keeper of the legacy in many ways, but also knows like, oh, where did we do this and over 5 years ago and where can we find it?
Right.
So he will know how to do that. One of the challenges we've had to figure out is to not put that burden of like, he knows everything, so everybody goes to him.
Right.
And now it's large enough that doesn't happen as much as it used to. So that's the delineation of responsibility that I think is important. I've seen an example of that, for instance, in Airbnb, where Brian Chesky is the CEO, co-founder. He had two other co-founders. But the other two co-founders knew that it was Brian's vision,
mm-hmm.
and they were executing on it.
Mm-hmm.
They all obviously played a big role in it, but it was his singular vision, his singular intensity that he brought to it that made it the success. And the other two co-founders knew it, and that's how it became a success. So I think that's at least my experience of how it works. Jason and I bounce things off each other. He will gut check me, and turns out most of the times he's right type thing. One of the other things we've learned is we get an idea, and I think it's the most brilliant idea, and just let it rest for a few days and then pick it up later. Because like almost many times you realize, oh, that was such a dumb idea at the time type thing. So we both have figured out ways to pick our lanes, if you will.
It's really interesting to me about that story because you were going to be the editorial person and you had someone with you who was going to be the business person. Then you met Jason and you switched.
Jason came from an editorial background, and that was his passion, was editorial.
But why weren't you thinking like, oh, well, it's great, but I'm doing that and, I'm going to find somebody else who like ticks this like very specific box? Was it just like you guys had this great chemistry that you thought, I could do the other side of it, forget it, and you can do the editorial side?
Yeah, no, I think his flexibility is what, he was very flexible. He said, Rafat, again, he initially said, and I think it's very rare that anybody has this level of awareness. He said, Rafat, it's your vision. I'm coming in, executing it. Whenever you think my work is done, just tell me. It's very rare. I mean, his work is not done, obviously. And he and I are together building it. And then Carolyn, who is our current president, she has been our president for 10 years now, since she's joined in 2015, and is almost a co-founder. Dennis Shaw, who's my employee number one, he's the founding editor. So he was technically the first employee, because I met actually Dennis before I met Jason.
Wow.
He was working at this other travel trade publication, has been around for a long time, covering the online travel, the start of online travel, whatever, 25, 30 years ago. He's been covering it as a journalist from the start. So Jason and I and him essentially were the founding team. Jason and I were involved in the launch of the site. Dennis was writing stories, helping us break through as a brand, was obviously very well known, so he could get stories that I didn't come from the industry. So even though initially I was writing quite a bit when Skift started, because just three of us were doing everything. Now I don't, but I do. I mean, I do and I don't. I go in phases now. I don't do reporting like any journalist would do. At this point, I write sort of thought leadership stuff or come up with frameworks, or I post on LinkedIn quite a bit, as you know. Keeps us visible, keeps us on the forefront of trends and thinking, and because I talk to a lot of people in the industry all the time, daily, pretty much. So I pass on concepts or story ideas or tips at times to the team that then does stories. There was a story on AI job losses today that I passed on, not the tip, but the concept to the reporter.
Yeah.
Adriana, who did a great job. So I'm not editorial, but I'm involved from a big picture perspective.
And how quickly after Skift launched did you feel like you were gaining that notoriety and really, really that you were onto something here?
Yeah, I think a couple of things happened. Because we were journalists trying to break original stories, break stories.
Right.
So we broke some major M&A stories early on. Priceline buying Kayak, Lonely Planet back in the days getting bought by that reclusive billionaire that bought it. I broke that one. Actually, Kayak one I broke too. Dennis broke a bunch of stories initially. And so original reporting really helped us break through. I mean, there's no secret to it. It's just like one thing one story at a time.
Mm-hmm.
American Airlines buying, what was the airline they bought? Whatever airline they bought at this point, it's been so long. In 2012 or 2013, they bought this airline and became American, the world's largest airline. They did a rebranding. We broke the story on what the new brand would look like. And we had a live blog going, and it was very popular. So just again, by no secret, just like doing the real hard work of gaining audiences, we started breaking through. And then our global forum, the first conference we did in 2014, so 2 years after we launched, we did our first conference, what has now become the Skift Global Forum. I mean, it's always called the Skift Global Forum. And that was year one, a one-day conference at the New York Times Center here in New York. Mm-hmm. I think that was the moment where, like, somebody tweeted, actually Wendy Perrin, who I think you may have heard of, and people in the industry know her quite well, tweeted, I remember from there, saying, this is the Davos of the travel industry that we really needed. Something along those lines she tweeted. And that, I think, probably would have been one of the major milestones to say, okay, yeah, we have arrived and we're doing something that I think has legs.
Yeah. What is the hardest decision you've ever had to make as a founder?
It's always laying off people. I mean, it cannot be any more hard than that. When COVID happened, and obviously for no fault of ours, we had to let about 1/3 of the staff go. Initially, it was furloughs. And then after 2 months, we had to let most of them go, almost all of them. And COVID was really tough. It was the decision of coming up with those 20 people. Like we were almost exactly 60 people when COVID hit in March. I mean, we started seeing signs in February.
Mm-hmm.
And by April, we had to come up with a list of 20. The executive team had to come up with a list of 20 people. Initially, the exec team minus me came up with a list of 10. And I said, that's too little. It's not going to make a difference in us trying to rescue the company from a money perspective.
Yeah.
And so I gave them literally, I remember like it was a Zoom calls, if you remember, it was calls like these
Yeah.
that we were all doing. And I was in my other house in Astoria. And I gave them maybe an hour to say, come back with another 10 names, which sounds very dispassionate and was brutal. But we had to do it.
Yeah.
And for no fault of the people that were affected, we had to let them go. So that was tough. And then announcing that to the team and trying to rebuild the team's morale at the time where there was so much uncertainty and very real chance that we would go under as a business, despite all of it, because who knew how long this was going to be and what lines of business. Conferences were gone, as you know. That was a major part of our revenues. It still is. So all of those smaller, tons of hundreds of decisions we made, small and large, was collectively the hardest existential threat to our business, as it was to everybody else in travel. So it's not like the good part. The only saving grace was we were not doing this alone. There was a real sense of community of people that were trying to survive.
Yeah.
Founders media founders. We had this informal group of media founders that were going back and forth with each other. Jason and I were acting like early days because it was so existential. Like this is 2020, so we were 8 years into our journey by that time and established enough company systems and processes. But those few months in 2020 particularly felt like we were back in early days just trying to survive.
But both in Skift and in paid content, I imagine you have gone through booms and recessions and shifts in both media and in travel. Did COVID really feel very different to you, that you felt like this might all be over? Or were you like, we've seen things like this before. I know we're going to be okay if we make smart decisions.
Yeah, no, I mean, recession, generally you have a sense. I went through the great financial crisis with my first company. And so that was tough. We did lay off, I don't remember how many, but we laid off a bunch of people in my previous company as well. I know it was a major one. I just don't remember how many. With COVID, it was very sudden, right? It was sort of, everything is shut down March 14th. Like in the US, particularly March 14th was the day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember writing an essay the next day or that day was the day the world stopped traveling. So it was an essay that I wrote that sort of got a little bit viral in the industry. And so it was quite sudden. And obviously us working from home, which was a new experience for all of us, everything was new. Like it was the first pandemic in our lifetime that certainly we had to deal with, and travel being the center of the worst affected sector in all of business. And so definitely a lot of things were new, and we had no sense of, initially it was a few weeks and a few months, and who knew it would stretch on for 2 years, 3 years. Vaccine, nobody had any sense of, obviously, at that point. So it was definitely different. And the good part that we came out of it is that, one, we became a fully virtual company permanently, or at least, for the foreseeable future. I have no desire to go back into office. We're from 60 down to 40 now. We're close to 100 people in 16 different countries, and have bought a few companies along the way. So, it took us a while. We lost, I would say, 3 years of business, which is not really unusual because a lot of companies lost those, those are the lost years, if you will. But it reset our business. Virtual company, much better profitability, like solidly profitable as a company. Hard as it is. I mean, it's always hard, as you know, in media information businesses. And the world's changing so fast, particularly over the last couple of years with AI, et cetera, coming in. But yeah, it's and then we had a moment where Silicon Valley Bank went under 2 years ago, if you remember.
I remember that.
And then we had all of our money, every penny of every cent, I guess, of our money in Silicon Valley Bank, and we could not take it out in time. So we lost all of that money, and we lost for three days because it was sort of a brief period, and then the government stepped in to backstop, and then everybody's money came back, and Silicon Valley Bank was rescued, etc. So that was tough. Oh my God, that was like COVID compressed into 3 days, and thankfully only 3 days. But really, because it was so compressed, it was awful. It was just awful because we didn't know how it would make. And it was a Friday till, I think it was maybe Thursday and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, the money came in the morning. And nobody in the team, except for the executive team that was trying to rescue the company, trying to figure out how to get money to do the payroll for Monday, which was going to run on Monday. How do we get enough money to do the payroll? And Monday, every Monday at 11 a.m., we have a company-wide call. Just every team tells what they're working on. And I had a memo prepared to say, here's what's happening. And then like by Monday morning, when the money came back like an hour before the call, I modified the memo to say, this is what happened.
So you told everyone anyway.
Well, this is what happened. I mean, because they were reading the news, but
right.
Some of our team knew that we had a bank account in Silicon Valley Bank, but most of the people didn't know because like, it's not a thing that generally employees care for.
No.
Of like where the company is banking.
Right.
We made a joke out of it after, but it was, oh my God, it was awful.
Wow.
But yeah, anyway, it came back, and obviously, now we have 3 bank accounts just
spreading out
as a hedge thing, and we have money invested and long-term stuff. And yeah, so now we know. Everybody learned the lesson then.
Well, not only was the travel industry really hard hit by COVID, but also New York City was. And as you mentioned, you and I are both fellow Astorians. What is it about New York City that made you really settle here? You had said you came back and forth when you were doing your 2 years of travel. You've been here for quite some time now. I believe you're from India originally. So why is New York home?
I mean, New York is home for the same reason it probably is for you, which is that it's just the sheer energy of the place, the diversity of existence here. I wouldn't even call people, but just existence. I mean, people are part of that existence. We moved when I had my first son, and he was about a year old. We were living in Long Island City then, which is next to Astoria. I mean, technically, I think our zip code is Long Island City. And we moved to the suburbs in Westchester we lasted 9 months. Because we hated it so much. Not the people in the suburb or anything like that. It's just that the existence was very isolating. And then we moved back, and that's when we moved to Astoria. And that was 2016 or something, 2015 or 16. So we've been here since then. And just, I mean, Queens in general, New York writ large, but Queens specifically, and Astoria even more specifically, just the breadth of diversity you find, both in terms of, it's not Manhattan, but it has enough of a little bit of a sort of a neighborhood feeling. And I wouldn't say suburb, but it has, it's not tall buildings all around you, even though that's changing, as you know. Queensboro Plaza, which is all tall buildings. But anyway, so I think New York and being connected to the world, both in terms of flights, yes, we're a virtual company, but everybody sort of passes through New York, so end up meeting a bunch of people in the industry. Our global forum happens here, so it's where everybody wants to travel to. Obviously, it's not like there's no one city in New York in the US, that's the hub of global travel industry. Like New York is the hub of media, finance, whatever, but it's not the hub of travel. So everybody comes here. And so, so from that perspective, it's as convenient and central as it can get, being based anywhere. And then the kids have such a multicultural existence here. You know this because you have 2 kids as well, and so it's just the diversity of their experiences, which matters in a world that is global, in a world that we as global souls travel. We want them to have a similar existence as they're growing up. So that's for me is what I love about New York.
I personally like to think of Queens as Brooklyn without the ego.
Yes, 100%. Yes, 100%. Yeah. Even though it's becoming as expensive, honestly. I mean, this is true for all across New York now. We have, even in Queens, we have like in Astoria, we have $7 coffees now. People are paying for it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I know.
Yeah.
I want to go back to a bit of you as a journalist. And I know you said, obviously, you're not doing reporting per se, but you're still doing, you're leading a lot of interviews at the Global Forum and other events you're doing. You're talking to people in the industry all the time. So when you are interviewing a CEO or another executive, what is your number one pet peeve?
Pet peeve, if they are on script. So we had this, I'm not going to name the CEO, but at the Global Forum this year, as you know, I had a lot of interviews on stage, like some ridiculous number, like 10. Even though my team and I try that I have more business meetings because that's my role.
Right.
Anyway, it ended up being 10 interviews. And one of them particularly was the CEO of a large travel company that was very script. Like I would ask questions and they would stick to the script. And it comes across like if I'm doing 5 interviews and one out of them is scripted, people are smart. People that are listening are accomplished, smart people in the audience. They immediately get it. So I think that's the pet peeve from if you're 2 stage managed and 2 PR managed. It ends up like harming your business. I mean, you spend your life in PR. These days, particularly, authenticity, like this is the whole podcast revolution, like authentic conversations is why people are gravitating towards alternative media.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same that is there in real life too. And so if I'm interviewing Brian Chesky of Airbnb, if he's opening up and being vulnerable to the extent that he can be on video and or in person, then I think that comes across.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly the interview you were talking about at Skift Global Forum, because to me as an audience member, I felt exactly the same way. And I appreciated you as a moderator poking at that a bit, respectfully, of course. And it's funny what you said about my background in PR, because I did have that same kind of aha moment, maybe about like 5 years or so ago now. I was at some event and I was watching someone on stage on a panel, and it was just talking point after talking point after talking point. And as the person who's usually the one writing those briefing documents, part of me was like, she actually read the briefing document. That's wonderful. The other part of me was like, wow, from the audience perspective, this is terrible. This is not what people want at all. And like you said, they can see right through it.
Yeah, and then people come up and give that feedback to you to say, oh yeah, that interview.
Exactly.
And so, as you know, we try and keep the interviews informal is not the word and casual is not the word, but somehow a mix of elements of those.
Mm-hmm.
You come at Skift to open up and have a thoughtful conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll grill based on whatever the topic is. As you said, Airbnb, we're booking, certainly Dennis does. Dennis interviews are legendary, but they're honest about it. And they know that the intellectual back and forth that can happen on our stage is the quality one. And so they open up. In general, like you see a same CEO of a hotel company speak at our conference versus NYU hospitality conference. Different.
Completely different. Yeah. What is it that makes you know an interview is going to be a good one?
Generally, this is not always true, but we've been around now a while. Generally, if you have prior history with the speaker, as in that person has spoken on stage, or you have a rapport with it, with the person, having spoken to this person a while for many times before, you generally know it's going to be a good interview because there's some past history to it. And then our team does a great job. I mean, our programming team has prepped the speaker and the team half dozen times before the actual on-stage stuff. So there's a lot of hand-holding that goes into it. If they're sounding stilted in the prep process, if they're, for instance, giving just a presentation on stage, then our team will work and make sure that it's not just the PR pitch purely, but it has real substance beyond the PR part. For us, the audience experience matters a lot, so we think about that part as well. I want to make sure that our team, our moderators, are not just are figuring out ways to include the audience in different sort of subtle ways. Whether turning towards the simple things that add up to the whole sense of, yes, there may be 1,000 people sitting in the room, but they still feel included. And sort of I've learned that over a period of time, and try and make sure not everybody has the same interview style, obviously, and that's fine. Not all interviews are great, as much as we try, as you know. Not all presentations are great. It's just, you do 10 of them and hope that 7 to 8 of them are good, and 2 of them, are not going to be great.
Right. 2 of them may not be repeated the next year.
May not be repeated the next year. Yeah, correct. That happens too. Like if they're not great, if they're going to stick to the script all the time, or their team is very insistent on like, these types of questions cannot be asked. Well, guess what? Not going to happen.
Yeah. Or scripting the actual questions to be asked, I imagine.
Or scripting the actual question. I mean, we're always open to ideas, and many times they bring up original data or something they announce something new,
right?
Forum. So that's beginning to happen quite a bit, where companies announce new things at our conferences. And so because we New York, we do now, and these conferences globally, and so that's been that also helps.
If you had to choose one macro force, technology, economics, climate, consumer behavior, anything at all, that you think will most dramatically reshape travel over the next decade or so, what do you think it would be?
Yeah, and it's not AI. Meaning, according to me, it won't be AI.
That is, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I thought for sure, I'm like, is he going to say AI?
Well, I mean, from the buying perspective, sure. But like travel is not just the buying part. Travel is the whole thing. And again, travel doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a continuum of the world. And so for me, which we've been talking about for a while, just the demographic changes in the world, as in the rise of the global south, whatever you want to call it. Population changes in China, in India, and India becoming the most populous nation 2-3 years ago in the world. Coming rise of Africa as a continent and the countries underneath the continent, that will be the largest, fastest growing population in the world in 25 years from now. I mean, they're fastest growing now, but they'll be a major part of the world population in 25 years, by 2050. We're sitting in 2025, so another 25 years left. Stats are that 1 in 4 young people will be African, and 1 in 3 overall in the world population will be African. Is the world ready for it? Unlikely at this point. And depends on where on the economic development spectrum those countries end up being, and that will determine quite a bit, but they will be a force no matter what. And then aligned to that, another thing we've talked about is just the sort of the loneliness epidemic, particularly in the Western world, that is affecting everything, mental health and how families are constructed, and the rise of, in good ways and bad, the rise of just single people as households and entities in the world. And so, and demographics and loneliness and sort of connection go hand in hand. So I think those are the larger forces that are a little bit more longer term, that play out over decades, that are going to affect travel more, versus AI, which certainly will have an effect but it's not it's not these long-term stuff. By in 10, 20 years, who knows what AI, I mean, for all I know, AI is going to lord over us in 5 years or 10 years from now. But I think that it's those societal things that I personally care about more.
Mm-hmm. When you think about the next chapter for Skift and maybe more broadly for travel, what excites you the most?
I think in travel, this sense that people are looking to go deeper when traveling, certainly when it comes to food, culture, this ability to get underneath the skin of a place that's one, people are more receptive to, two, is more possible now if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly personally that excites me is like, how does the travel industry create these deeper experiences that are more meaningful and more long lasting in terms of the impact that it has, both on the people that are traveling, but also on the communities that deliver those, and that what that does to the business of travel, to me is exciting. And then with Skift, we're 13 years in, so we are now in our sort of full bloom youth, if you will, if you will. But in many ways, we're just getting started, and aggressive ambitions on how we grow from here, both organically as in continue to have our global footprint, grow our global footprint, go deeper into different parts of this travel sector, figure out a business on audio and video, which is how the world listens and communicates now, as you very well know.
Mm-hmm.
We do a bunch of podcasts and video from our conferences, and our team does videos on and off, but we need to do a better job at it. And so that's the big goal in front for 26, but also sort of long term is we need to be wherever the audience is and however they want. And it's a different muscle that we're using in audio and video than it is in text, and it is in conferences.
Sure.
Or it is in research. So I'm excited about sort of the multitude of formats that we're going in, and the fact that, for me, exciting part, which continues to be a wonder to me these many years in, is just how global our impact is, how seamlessly global the business of travel is, and as a result, our business is. But also how we have people in 16 different countries that we've employing, that we are somehow part of their lives, that they're creating for themselves, and there's this one common company that is helping all of those people. And the fact that we seamlessly, our teams interact with each other across these different vast time horizons and geographies is not trivial, as in we cannot take it for granted. And so, the difference in cultures and work styles is real. And for us, it's how do we overcome those differences, or in many cases, don't overcome those. That sort of brings together a whole. The creative team has, I think, 5 or 6 people, and each of them are, for all I know, in different, not just different countries, but maybe different continents as well. And there's a handoff and a sense of design and creative output that is a mix of all those cultures, if you will, that becomes the Skift brand language. And so to me, that's fascinating. And the fact that young people are starting their careers and building careers worldwide through Skift, which generally the perceived wisdom is like the young people want to be back in office. And they may. The people that join Skift are a self-selecting group of people that want that. And so for us, I'm never been the ideology that this is good and that's bad, as in like office is great and virtual is bad, or virtual is great and office is bad. Whatever works for you is what's great. For us, the distributed nature of our team and how we create it has worked for us. Obviously, pros and cons. Like, I know what the cons are of us not being in office, which are outweighed by the pros that we've been able to do since.
I love it. I love it. That was such good insight too, and almost feels like a microcosm of the travel industry within the organization.
Yeah, and we honestly, and this again was accidental. like, one of the things that, and very well, the boutique hospitality ethos at its best, in many ways, we have embodied, and you see it in our team when you come to Global Forum, of how hospitable our team is and how in touch with each other the team is, even though they're in touch and in sync, if you will, with each other. And people notice it. And so they say to me, your team is the best they've worked with, even if, let's say, there's a client that is not happy with the results of the campaign. But one thing they will unfailingly say is that just working with your team was a joy, which is a huge compliment to us. So I think that best of boutique hospitality, unconsciously we've embodied, I think, in our company as well. I don't know if we've learned it from the industry, but it's somehow through osmosis we have created that boutique environment, if you will.
Rafat, I want to ask you the last 3 questions that I ask every guest. And the first is, what was the best hospitality experience you've ever had?
It was actually, speaking of boutique, it wasn't boutique. It was Four Seasons in Istanbul, which just had such a fabulous level of hospitality. And one incident I even wrote about, which was that it was with our older son and I and my wife. We went to Istanbul 3 years ago. And he has a pillow that is his favorite pillow. I'm actually sitting in his room. His bed is right up my head here, right here. So he has this pillow that he carries everywhere, and it did not have a cover because the cover was torn, so he just took the pillow. And in Istanbul, if you're there, there are tons of cats everywhere. So he bought one of the cat pillow toys. And so the housekeeping staff saw that the pillow didn't have a cover. They took a print of the cat and printed it on a new pillow cover and put the pillow inside it and wrote a note saying, we noticed that you did not have, your son didn't have a pillow with, so we made sure it had some Istanbul flavor in it.
Oh my
Which
gosh.
is very sweet. I mean, they're taught these things on how to surprise and delight the guests. And that story will stay with us forever because it was such a meaningful day and our son was really happy, and that's his pillow cover now.
And on the flip side of that, what was the worst hospitality experience you've ever had?
I don't know. It's probably my wife and I were thrown out of a hotel in India, in Delhi, by the French owner it was part of our wedding. It was a long story, but it's the first time I'm probably remembering it since then because I blocked it out of my head. But he gave us our money back to say, please find some other hotel.
Wait, you guys were there for your wedding? And
we were part of our wedding travels. It wasn't our wedding, but it was part of our wedding travels. And it was a new hotel that was underprepared. And I'm remembering the details for the first time, so I'm probably blocking out a bunch of those things. But it was like they weren't able to do this or that or this or that, and the room was cold. If I remember, it was winter. So that was, and then we had to find another hotel. I mean, it was 2010 when we got married, 2012. So it was 2012.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and many others like New York when I was not living here. I remember rats in the room type thing, but these were, cheap hotels that whatever I could afford back then. This was a long time ago.
Okay, wow. And final question for you. What does hospitality mean to you? And is there anyone, it can be a person, it can be a brand that you think has truly mastered it?
I mean, I think Four Seasons is what I've learned has definitely mastered it. One of the things that I've learned, if you, there's a lot of misconceptions about Middle East, for instance, Arab cultures. But if you go to Arab cultures, they definitely have mastered. It's very culture, and generally Asian cultures, like the more east you go, the Asian cultures embody hospitality as part of their existence. Is not just in the industry. This is their, the hospitality to guests, no matter where and how the guests come from, is a very Eastern thing. Or at least for now, left in the East, and in our West, we're just tearing each other apart. And so, whether in Bangkok, I did write about this. Maybe it's on LinkedIn at some point. We did our Skift forum Asia in Bangkok, Skift Asia forum in Bangkok this year in May. I was there for Bangkok for 5 days. And I did not have a single bad meal.
Wow.
Except for the hotel breakfast. That was not going to name the hotel. Which you would have thought hotel breakfast would be great because they're usually great in Asia.
Right.
But every other experience of having food and the hospitality that comes with, like there was a Chinese restaurant where every table was assigned one dedicated person. And that person's job is to stand there no matter what until you decide on your order. We didn't realize it's not like an upscale restaurant, it's just like a regular thing. So just the freshness of ingredients, the sense of hospitality, like Bangkok was certainly right up there.
Rafat, this has been so much fun. Thanks for taking the time to do this today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
All right, everyone. It's time for today's sweet summary, where I break down the key insights and actionable takeaways from today's conversation. Rafat's passion for the industry is palpable. You can hear him light up when he talks about travel, the world, microeconomic forces, and the interconnected systems that shape how we all move through it. It's an authentic fascination, almost a reverence, that allows him to stay so deeply attuned to travel's past, its present complexities, and the future that's rapidly taking shape. He spoke about how life, as well as travel, rarely unfolds in neat stories. 1 + 1 does not always equal 2, or at least not immediately. Instead, meaning only emerges in hindsight after we see what a series of moments have become. It's an insight from someone who clearly understands the power of chronology, context, and chance, a seasoned storyteller. Skift could have been shift.com if Rafat had been able to afford the domain name. Rafat could have remained the, quote, editorial guy, had his original co-founder not backed out, an unexpected twist that led to him meeting his now co-founder, Jason. And Skift could have gone under during COVID, or at least missed payroll entirely when their bank disappeared overnight. Each moment presented an opportunity to quit. But instead, Rafat chose decisiveness, clarity, and reinvention. Hearing Rafat speak about what excites him most about the future of Skift was truly a microcosm of travel overall. We're going to see cultural differences collide, new behaviors emerge, and technologies accelerate in ways that challenge old assumptions. And sure, we can work to reduce some of the friction that naturally comes with that. But the magic of travel, and really the magic of Skift, is in the blending and blurring of perspectives, where different ideas, backgrounds, and expectations meet and make something new, something better, something uniquely their own, much like his home of New York City itself. And that concludes another episode of Sweet Success. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We all know how important those 5-star reviews are. I also want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. It means the absolute world to me. And I'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for future guests, new topics to cover, or even just want to say hi, don't be shy. Message me through our website, sweetsuccesspodcast.com, or on social media @sweetsuccesspodcast. That's sweet like hotel suite. Once again, I'm your host, Katie Cline, and I'm super excited to see you all next week.